the Elder Scrolls. Ask anybody what they think of the Elder Scrolls series and they'll be all like, oh yeah, I love those games. But if you were to actually take 100 people who claim to like the Elder Scrolls series, you'd find out that while most of them had played Oblivion, only say 15 had played Morrowind, maximum 5 had played Daggerfall, and only one of them had played the first game. And that's Chris. He's a jerk. For once, my PC gaming reputation has failed me. I've actually never played Morrowind. I've certainly never played Daggerfall. And probably like you, I had no idea what the first one was called until Wikipedia told me. Apparently it's called Arena. Who knew? So how about we turn this whole embarrassing situation on its head? How about we go on a knowledge journey backwards through fantasy wonderland, starting with the familiar and continuing deep into the unknown. This is the Bluffer's Guide to the Elder Scrolls series, and believe me, we're going to be bluffing hard on this one. Oblivion, the 4th Elder Scrolls game. For many gamers, this whole first-person fantasy RPG thing was uncharted territory. Gaming isn't exactly cool or anything, but some of us like to think that the games we play are more socially acceptable than others. You know, like football games and shooting games, you know, manly games. Grrr. Only dweebs and freaks play fantasy RPGs. Why, that's just like digital LARPing. Well, not quite, but Oblivion did have to work very hard to convince the mainstream gamer to play a game involving swordplay, magic, and cat people. Thankfully it did, and millions were exposed to the wonderful game world of Tamriel. But before Captain Picard helps you escape from your prison cell, you have to make your character. The character creator in Oblivion is kind of like giving a grown man a pen and paper and asking him to draw a self-portrait. They'll start off with good intentions, you know, trying to craft a perfect replica of their own face, maybe fixing some of those parts of themselves that they don't like so much, you know, different hair, smaller nose. That doesn't look like me at all. Maybe if I just tweak this a little bit, you know, just no, it's much worse, much worse. The more you work on it, the uglier it gets, and then the worse it gets, the less you seem to care. So in the end, you just settle for a cat dude. Once you emerge from the filthy rat-infested prison, what you do next is up to you. Go wandering, rob people, help people, go hunting, cast spells, or do all the things that society won't let you do in real life. You see, Oblivion was a truly open-ended universe, so if you wanted to kill another cat man, strip him naked and teabag him with a horse, you could. Personally, I used to love going into people's houses during the day to kill and rob them. But before leaving, I'd create an elaborate crime scene. See, this guy's wife is gonna come home and think he died having sex with his dinner. Oblivion prided itself on a radiant AI system which employed a really realistic conversation mechanic. Basically, you had to judge how well each person responded to 4 different types of communication: flattery, humour, boasting, and threats. I remember thinking at the time, yeah, this is actually quite cool, but it doesn't really stand up in real life conversation. Blessings of Stendar upon ye. You're looking mighty sexy today, Johnny. 2 men walk into a bar. You'd think the first one would have seen it. I ate a burrito for breakfast. Give me your shoes or I'll clobber your brain box. The reason people are excited is because they spend hours, even days, playing Oblivion, but for those true Elder Scrolls fans, the story had been going for much longer. The 3rd Elder Scrolls game was set in the province of Morrowind and was suitably titled Morrowind. The first thing I noticed when I loaded it up is just how similar it is to Oblivion. This time around you wake up on a boat, but it has the same what's your name, where are you from, what star were you born under shenanigans that you had to do in Oblivion's prison. This time around I made a lizard man from Skyrim. Once you're released into the community, you're pretty much left to your own devices again. Conversations are text-based, but people talk when you initially walk up to them, often in very familiar voices.
Speak quickly, Outlander, or go away.
Unfortunately, the town you start off in is full of unhelpful idiots, all of which walk like they've been cycling bikes without a saddle. So I left, and within minutes of walking down this path, I met a screaming book, which then made this dead guy appear. Using the tricks I learned in Oblivion, I robbed all his stuff and made him naked. But Morrowind has this awesome option where you can just dispose of the body. God, how handy would that be in real life? I'd definitely have more space in my freezer. A while later I found a cave, but this guy inside killed me. So next time I passed the cave and found this lovely little town, but they all tried to kill me too. So I ran away and I met this guy on a bridge and, well, yeah.
Now this is fighting.
So I guess Morrowind is much harder and not one that's easily bluffed through. It kind of makes Oblivion look like its easy console little brother. It retains much of the atmosphere and scope of Oblivion, and you really feel like you're on the edge of a massive world. Honestly, it must have blown people's minds back in 2002. There's still a decent community surrounding the game as well, and several high-resolution texture packs have been released by fans. Daggerfall. Alright, Daggerfall, let's do this. First, if you're interested in playing this, and no offense to the game, but chances are you won't be, you'll need to get a copy of DOSBox to run it, as the game predates GUI-based operating systems, Bombfunk MCs, and time itself. Once you get it up and running, you realise how much of an advancement Morrowind really was. And in fairness, it should be. Daggerfall came out 6 years earlier in 1996. Graphically, it looks like a very basic game, but there's a shocking amount of detail and permanency in the game world. Daggerfall is set in the province of Hammerfell and includes all the character creation trappings we're familiar with now. The game world is vast at around 10 square miles, and it's populated by a staggering 750,000 NPCs, even more impressive when you consider Oblivion and Morrowind only had about 1,000 each. Those who have played Daggerfall have a deep love for the game, and you can really appreciate why, but to get to the root of the Elder Scrolls series, we're going to have to travel back to 1994. Finally, we come to the game that started it all, Elder Scrolls Arena. So much like Daggerfall, you're going to have to jump through a lot of DOSBox hoops to get this running. My first impression was that it reminded me of all those classic mouse-controlled RPGs like Abandoned Places, games that used to scare the crap out of me as a kid. And once you get to play this, the control scheme can be equally as terrifying. I think my favourite thing about Arena is its name. It's not actually an arena fighting game. Apparently it was at some point, but as the game was being developed, they concentrated more on the RPG elements and less on arena combat. Eventually the arena combat was scrapped, but since all their development materials had arena printed all over them, they retconned the concept that because the world was so dangerous, it was to be known as Arena, which is kind of like humanity renaming Earth Not Enough Food for Everyone. It also has one of the toughest opening levels I've ever played. I honestly spent an entire night trying to get out and failed. These bloody goblins kept surrounding me. I've read that the easiest way to get out of here is actually just to farm them until your abilities level up high enough so you can get out. These are the types of first impressions that modern games just aren't allowed to get away with anymore, except maybe Dark Souls. Humble beginnings for a series that in the modern day has captured the imagination of millions. Though the series has spanned almost 2 decades, you can certainly see the evolution between releases. Embracing technology and refining the experience has led to innovation after innovation. I wonder if the team who made Arena back in 1994 could have envisaged the glorious vistas of Skyrim as we see them today. That these classics, founded on a love for Dungeons and Dragons, would eventually become global mainstream blockbusters. So what are your thoughts on the Elder Scrolls series? Have you played any of these classics? Do you have any fond memories from Oblivion? And what are you most looking forward to in Skyrim? Let us know as ever in the comment box below, or feel free to take the conversation onto Twitter using hashtag BluffersGuide or by tweeting me at Danny O'Dwyer.